Hi. Greetings from Wisdom Lord Raphael. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification icon and don't miss any contents. This is the light novel of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. If you haven't watched previous video, I will leave the link on the description box, or you can click here. Let's start. This is Tensura Light Novel Volume 16. Tensura Light Novel. Volume 16. The End of the Game. Epilogue. Guy Crimson. Guy's Born and Journey. He arose a long time ago, far back in the ages, before the creation of the world. His birth was a mere coincidence. Veldanava, the creator god, created the 7 seraphim from the great spirit of light, and the shadows were born. Those were the 7 primordials, devil lords derived from the great spirit of darkness. He was the first of them, and he was the king who ruled the underworld, the world of darkness. Since his birth, his power had been absolute, the embodiment of darkness. An arrogant king who could control the demons at will. From his perspective, even his 7 separate brothers and sisters of darkness were no more than like those of his many family members' dependents. Once in a bid for supremacy, when 2 of the primordials teamed up to challenge him, he subdued the 2 to the ground without a second thought. To him, it was nothing but mere child's play, but one thing did become clear at that time. That is, the primordials were immortal. However, if they were crushed to the core, they would be resurrected in subordination to the victor. As mental organisms, they were subjugated to their opponents once defeated. With the discovery of this fact, the remaining 4 primordials fell into a stalemate. No. There was one particular primordial who persistently troubled him, but his fate had been sealed once he was summoned to Earth. Whether it was a coincidence that he was called to Earth or not, there was no way to confirm it now. However, it is true that it changed his fate drastically. Having been summoned, he looked around. He had spent all his time in peace in the underworld and had no connection to the flow of time that passed on Earth. In a world that he thought was just beginning, civilization had already developed. Instantly, he understood that he had been summoned. It was magic, a technique that rewrote the laws of the world. The power he had when he was in the underworld was limited, and he could only exert the power of a newborn archdemon. Even so, it was enough for him, though it was inconvenient to be without a body. He wondered why this was happening, and soon understood. This was a semi-material world, not a realm of spiritual beings. In a space that was not filled with magicules, simply staying there would consume energy. He, who had no connection with the creator god, did not understand how the world had been transformed. Very interesting, he thought. However, he felt uncomfortable by the presence of someone who was screaming something in front of him. There was no one who would dare do such a reckless and foolish thing in front of him, the strongest in the underworld. That was why he felt like putting up with him for a while. The wizard who had summoned him spoke very pompously. The language is the first language, the magic language. Therefore, he understood it without any effort. He listened to him patiently and found that he was saying some very interesting things. There were countries in this world competing for supremacy. There were elves, dwarves, beastmen, vampires, and humans. It seems that various races had been born and were competing for survival. The wizard was a high human. You are now my servant. Follow my orders in accordance with the principles of the world. The man spoke arrogantly. In order for the super magic empire to unite the world, he was ordered to destroy the warring nations that were vying for supremacy. It was very easy for him to do so. The war, which had lasted 100 years, came to an end upon his arrival. All he had to do was to cast a single spell. That magic was the forbidden nuclear magic, Death Streak. The rampage of this large-scale destructive magic, which destroyed even the soul, transformed the largest nation with a population of over 1 million into a city of death. To him, this was a natural occurrence and was irrelevant to him. However, there was one interesting change. He realized that he was awakening, having acquired the souls of a large number of people. As a result, he has succeeded in incarnating using 1 million corpses. Even the drowsiness he felt for the first time was pleasant, and it was a pleasure to fight against it. This event would be the birth of the world's first true demon lord. As he gained power, he realized that he had escaped the spell that bound him. It would have been an easy spell to destroy, but it was disappointing that it had burst without him doing anything. Apparently, his awakening began when he had reaped the souls of about 10,000 humans. His race restriction had been lifted, and he had become a demon peer. Even so, his power was still less than 10% of what he could wield in the underworld, but it was enough to become an unrivaled presence on Earth. He wondered with interest what would happen if he gathered a larger number of souls. There were some who were just perfect for the experiment. Those who had thrown all the chores at him should return the favor accordingly. He returned to the first city and killed everyone in sight one by one. He refrained from using mass destruction spells so as not to involve the man he was after. At this point, he felt the screams of the dying being etched into his soul. Yeah. Screams like this. Hearing this, he suddenly thought. Yes, perhaps that is a good name for me. And that was that. The change was dramatic. Guy had evolved further. He became a devil lord and regained all the power he had when he was in the underworld. The souls he acquired had given him strength. The maximized vessel was filled to the brim and his magicule amount was fully restored. But that was where the changes ended. At that point, there was no meaning for Guy to work anymore. He summoned the 2 pillars, primordials, that followed him and gave them orders. Wipe out the super magic empire from the face of the earth. Guy was feeling very generous now that he had awakened as a demon lord and gained a name. Even that insignificant wizard wasn't worth his trouble to torment and was even wiped from his memory. Ha, how? How did you escape from my secret arts? But Guy didn't even pay any mind to him. It was the wizard's good fortune that he was killed by the demons without understanding anything. On that day, tens of thousands of years ago, the largest and most powerful nation in the history of mankind, which had been caught in a divisive struggle, disappeared from the earth with ease. The 2 pillars summoned by Guy had, after all, deteriorated to the level of archdemons. That was the law of this world. When one crosses from the underworld to the semi-material world, they lose most of their power. Crossing the world was no problem for a spiritual life form, but in this world, even just maintaining an existence was extremely draining. Therefore, they needed a physical body. Only by incarnating and evolving could they take root in this world. Understanding this, Guy waited for his followers to evolve. But strangely enough, no matter how many human souls he collected, the 2 of them never evolved. So he gave them the honor of incarnating a corpse. That act alone was the best evidence that Guy was in a very good mood. The 2 pillars were the green primordial, vert and a blue primordial, blue. Their forms were of 2 beautiful women. Looking at them kneeling in front of him, Guy pondered. There was no point in even incarnating if there was no way to further strengthen them. They could be trusted with miscellaneous tasks, but their power was too fragile. So Guy decided to be generous and give them names. Remembering that he himself had evolved with a name, he thought that the 2 of them might evolve in the same way. I will give you a name. My pride will not allow you to be weak while you are under my control. Guy declared as such. To the green primordial, vert, the name Mizari came from the mournful cries of the grieving. To the blue primordial, blue, the name rain was given because it was raining that day. The 2 evolved to demon peer, as Guy had intended. That was the beginning. It was the first day Guy and the others had left their mark on human history. Days of fun and boredom followed. Guy wandered from place to place, enjoying this world. He had his share of annoyances, but Guy didn't mind. Mizari and Rain were always with him, taking care of him. You 2 can live your life the way you like. Guy told them so, but their answers were always the same. No. My mission is to be of service to you. That's right. You are the king, and we are your subjects. That is the eternal and immortal truth. And so, the 3 of them continued their journey. At the same time, Mizari and Rain were summoning their own dependents and secretly building up a sphere of influence. All in order to provide Guy, the ruler, with all the wealth and pleasures of the world. Unlike life in the underworld, where one spent all their time fighting and refining the strength of their soul, this world was full of excitement. There was no stagnation, and it was constantly developing. Cooking, music, performing arts, dance, fine arts, and many other things kept Guy and his friends interested. Hey, isn't this kind of thing fun? Guy, who was dancing at a festival in a minority village, smiled at Mizari and Rain. Faced with the rare smile of their lord, Mizari and Rain's joy reached its peak. How wonderful. I thought human beings were fragile and worthless, but now there is something useful. Everything in this world is Gisama's property. A tool is only meaningful if used skillfully. In this way, the girls were also changing their perception. Mizari and Rain learned many things in their travels to please Guy. Their experiences became the basis for them to become all-round maids cooking, washing, singing, dancing, and playing musical instruments. This, too, was growth. In the underworld, the weak were weeded out. All races other than demons had been exterminated, and only slaves who had been found worthy of use were employed. But in this world, even the weak held value. Once I understood that, it seemed a shame to destroy the world. Guy put it that way. Humans are cute, aren't they? Stupid, but I don't hate it. Some people were stupid, but some people were wonderful. Ugly emotions were disgusting, but beautiful emotions were very tasty, and for Guy and the others, they were the perfect meal. From Guy's perspective, there were too many individual differences in the creatures known as humans to make a generalization about them. At that time, Guy was very kind to humans. He exterminated the fearsome magic beasts that threatened settlements all over the world and destroyed the evil sorcerers, Maja, who were thought to be the survivors of the super magic empire, and his various actions were praised and passed down to future generations, becoming myths and legends. And then he met the creator of this world, the supreme and most powerful being. Guy was enjoying his days of peace and quiet, but his senses were always sharpened. That's why it was immediately obvious. That being was Veldanava, the Star King Dragon who created this world. If you're a real god, then show me your power. Guy laughed fearlessly. He did not doubt that he was the strongest and challenged Veldanava as a matter of course. The result was a crushing defeat. Guy was left on the ground without a chance to fight back. His pride, which had never doubted that he was the strongest, was shattered into a million pieces. In accordance with the law, that defeat is servitude, Guy was supposed to be Veldanava's servant. But Guy's pride would have none of that. Kill me. I am satisfied. I now understand that in this world, there is a higher power. There is no end to it, and I too, am part of an unbroken line of reason. O great being, I am proud to have lost to you. The defeated Guy spoke proudly. Veldanava laughed bitterly. Little one. I love the existences that I have created. This world that used to be boring is growing richer and richer. Wise beings have arisen and evolved to the point where they can communicate with me. Now there is even a strong man like you who can fight me to the level of battle. Ha, well said. My attacks didn't even hit you once, and you just attacked me once, and this is how I have become. Phew, but didn't you still take it? No one could even challenge me, and yet you did. That alone is more than enough to make me happy. Well, let's just keep it at that. Yeah, let's do that. And while you're at it, I have a request for you. A request? A pleasant sense of satisfaction filled Guy. That is why he listened to Veldanava's voice. Yes. If this rate of growth continues, the world will be doomed in less than a few thousand years. Humans are fallible creatures. Sometimes the right actions are not righteous, and sometimes, evil actions can save the world. But it is this imperfection that makes it so lovely. It is not my intention to let this world fall. So help me keep the world from falling apart, Veldanava said. It reminded Guy of the super magic empire he had destroyed. Foolishly fighting each other despite being of the same race, seduced by the lust for dominance and power. I see. That was indeed ugly. If it had been left unchecked, the world might have been destroyed. Guy was convinced, but one question remained. Your preconception is the same as mine, but I don't understand. What is it? You're the creator, aren't you? If you're the god who created us, then you should be able to bring the world to the outcome you want. Why do you need to rely on me? Because I am not omniscient nor omnipotent. When I was born, all I had was my will. At that time, I was satisfied. The world was perfect and lacked nothing when I was the only one. In other words, it was boring, right? I see, Guy thought. He understood. Veldanava had given up being omniscient and omnipotent by his own free will. Of course he did. It would be so boring to be able to see all the outcomes. In light of his own experience, he found it boring to only fight battles that he could win. In the underworld, everyone was afraid of Guy, except for one person. Any demon who wanted to challenge him to a fight had long since disappeared. Even Guy, who was no match for Veldanava, was afraid of him, so it was no wonder that this god had abandoned his omniscience. I don't hate this world, so I'm gonna help you. No need to hesitate. Guy also loved this world. Regardless of servitude, Guy was genuinely willing to help. Veldanava nodded happily. Thank you. I want you to be my agent, as a mediator, and watch over this world. A mediator? Is it okay not to give me an order? Of course. I told you, didn't I? It is not my intention to force you to do anything, no matter what. Okay. So, what do you want me to do? Stay put. You can roam the world as you are, or you can set up your base and reign. Anything to keep mankind from becoming prideful, to let them know that there's a threat to this world. Pride. Hearing that word, Guy realized that he was suited to his role. Right. In that case, I'll reign as a demon lord, feared by mankind. If there is an absolute enemy, there will be no time for humans to fight each other. That's interesting. I'm going to have to put you in a very uncomfortable position, but I'm counting on you. Yeah, leave it to me. And that was that. Guy's heart form materialized, and he gained the unique skill Pride. Guy declared. As the demon lord of this world, if mankind becomes prideful, I will judge them for you. Guy's pride had been shattered, and his mind had grown deeper because of it. As a result, the demon lord was born with power rivaling that of a god. Veldanava laughed. How reliable. Let's keep working together, my friend. I'm sure we'll have fun. Thus, Guy and Veldanava recognized each other and became friends on equal terms. That's all for today. Hope you guys enjoy it. Please check my other videos. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit the notification icon. And don't miss any updates. Thank you for watching.